Hello, everybody. If you're watching this, you are presumably either a student who's been admitted to the University of Maryland, who is contemplating a chemistry or biochemistry major, or the parent of such a student. And normally during prospective student open houses, these things are done in a room, and they're called a breakout session. Because of the coronavirus situation, I'm going to try and do this online. So a lot of people have fairly sophisticated presentations where they have a lot of PowerPoint slides and stuff like that. And some people during regular breakout sessions will provide you with a pile of paper, which you can put into your larger pile of paper and probably never looked at. I've never done that. I normally run my breakout sessions just as a a question and answer session, and so that's what I'm going to do today, except that I won't be able to take questions. I'm just going to go through a list of questions that I've encountered fairly often through the years. Okay. To start things off, I actually do have a piece of paper. My name is Michael Montague-Smith, and I am a principal lecturer and the director of undergraduate programs in the Chemistry and Biochemistry, Department of Chemistry and Biochemistry. And there's my email in the event you want to contact me, and I'll try and put this up at the end again. What that means in English is that I am a faculty member in the department. I normally teach one class a term, usually organic. If that results in you hating me more, that's okay. In addition to that, I'm the director of the undergraduate program, which means that half of my job is basically trying to keep the undergraduate program going. We have a large program. We have about 3,500 students taking one chemistry class or another every term. So keeping it afloat is sometimes a challenge. So on to the questions. The first one that often comes up is what am I going to do my first semester, and how our advanced placement score is going to fit into that. And so it's kind of a two-part question. And the first one is that for everyone that decides to come to Maryland, during the summer, you will be asked to attend a new student orientation, during which time you will meet with an advisor, probably me, and we will go over your records, including your AP scores, and determine a appropriate first semester schedule for you, and get you enrolled and all that stuff. What I would say is that for first semester students, my general advice is don't try and do too much too soon. You're going to be in a new environment, new things to learn. The last thing you want to do is take too many courses and overload yourself. My general advice is your first term, you should be taking 2 and no more than 2 math and science courses. The way I usually phrase this is that there's plenty of time to prove how brilliant you are. Your first semester is not it. There's plenty of time to get all this stuff done. People graduate with degrees in chemistry and biochemistry in 4 years, whether they have AP credit or not. So there's really no reason to push yourself too hard. Which then brings me to the topic of advanced placement, or IB if you happen to be taking that. As a general rule, at the University of Maryland, if you got a 4 or a 5 on an AP exam, you're going to get some kind of class credit within the university. And the general advice is that if you have AP credit, take it, go on to the next level, and don't repeat it. I often get questions, usually from students wanting to know, well, I took AP X my sophomore year, and I'm not sure I remembered all that well. What should I do? Same advice holds. Generally speaking, if you have AP credit, take it, go on with it. There's a couple reasons for that. One, most people want to take an AP course, whether they're willing to admit it or not, because they think they'll be able to do really well in it and get an A. And there's nothing wrong with that goal, except that if you take a class you've already taken, you will have seen the material before, you're going to think you know it, you're not going to work as hard as maybe you need to, and you're going to wind up with a C. And I can't tell you how many times I've seen that happen. That's not the goal. The other potential problem is that for many of you, you're contemplating going on to professional school or graduate school, and you may find yourself in an interview at some point, and someone's going to say, oh, I see you got a 5 on the AP exam and whatever, and you went back and took the class over again. How come? And if the only answer you can give them is, well, I wanted an easy A, that's a terrible answer. They're going to be looking for people that want to challenge themselves, not people that are going to be taking the easy way out. So, cheap advice, if you got AP credit, take it, go forward. The next issue with AP is that in sort of opposition to the advice I just gave you, there are 2 exceptions to our AP advice. The first one is math. A lot of you are going to have AP credit in AB or BC calculus, which means they're going to get credit for calculus 1 or calculus 2. As you may be aware, we require 2 terms of calculus for a chem or biochem degree. And if you have a 4 or 5 on the BC test, you will have completed our math requirement. Now, 2 parts to this answer. One, as a general rule, we strongly encourage our majors to take extra math. Calculus 3, even differential equations if you can find time to take it. It's actually really helpful when you get to advanced chemistry classes like physical chemistry. So the question comes up, not only for AP students, but for everybody, what should be my first math class? And our general advice is, your first math class at Maryland should be the same as the last math class wherever it was you came from. So let's use the example of BC calculus again. If you have BC calculus credit, you got a 4 or 5, you're going to get credit for Calc 2. And you may say, oh, I want to jump into Calc 3. Our advice would be, take Calc 2 over again, even if it means you're going to lose some AP credit. The reason for that is that the data shows pretty clearly that students that come in and sort of jump to the next level in math often have a very difficult time. There are exceptions to that, and you have to decide for yourself, but our advice is your first math class should be the same as the last math class, wherever it was you came from. The second exception to the AP advice is, alas, chemistry. If you have AP credit in chemistry, you're going to get credit for General Chemistry 1, Chemistry 131 and 132, which is the lecture and lab. However, for chem and biochem majors, we have a special class called Chem 177, first semester general chemistry laboratory, and we make everybody take it, whether they have AP credit or not. So even if you have AP credit, you don't have to retake the lecture, but you do have to retake the lab. The view is that we've reviewed AP laboratory curricula across the country, and not to be cute, but it's really been watered down to the point where in a lot of cases it's basically water and sugar and salt. And our faculty decided that that's really not adequate preparation in laboratory for chem and biochem majors. So we created Chem 177, and basically we make everybody take it. So AP credit or not, you're going to be in 177 your first term. Second question, or third question, whichever, which often comes from parents, is what's the job market like after graduation? And the answer to that is, it's like what you want it to be like. Our majors go on and do almost anything you can imagine. I can provide you with some data, which is that about 25% of our majors after graduation go on to medical school. About another 25% go on to some other medical related field, like nursing or pharmacy or dental school, that kind of thing. About another 25% go on to some other kind of postgraduate schooling, law school, business school. There's a variety of things that people do. I got to be careful here. I'm going to run out of quarters. We have a handful of people every year who have double majors in education. And when they walk out the door, they're basically certified to teach chemistry in the state of Maryland. They go on and become teachers. And we have a number of people all over the state who graduate from our program who are high school teachers. And then there's a percentage every year who basically want to go out and get jobs, and because they just don't want to be in school anymore and they want to get on with their lives and so forth. And generally speaking, they go on in what they want to do, with what they want to do. There's no single thing that people do. The reality is that a degree in chemistry and biochemistry is a challenging degree, and everyone knows that. And completing a degree in our program is not going to shut any doors for you. I can anecdotally provide you with a story, which is about 11 years ago. There was a kid who was graduating. In all honesty, he was not one of our stronger majors. He came in to see me right before graduation, and he was planning on going to Europe, something he'd always wanted to do. And I'm like, okay, enjoy Europe. So about 6 months later, I got a phone call from Prague, and it was him. And he was applying for a position in a Czech Republic chemistry laboratory as a researcher. And he needed a recommendation. And so I got on the phone with this guy, and he didn't speak very good English, and I don't speak the Czech language at all. But somehow I managed to convey the fact that here's what he'd done. And this fellow ultimately got a job, and he stayed there 8 years. And I just got a LinkedIn notification, I guess about a year ago, that he was moving back to the States, and he was going to be heading up a research team in a biotech company out in the Bay Area. So people do whatever they want. As I said, it's not going to shut any doors for you, but there's no single thing that people do. The good news is that there are very few of our majors who are out there driving cabs, unless that's really what they want to do. So that would be the answer to that. Another question that is often broken up into multiple parts is why Maryland? Because that's why you're watching this, is what should I be thinking about and why should I choose Maryland instead of someplace else? And the answers are all over the place, but from the point of view of the department, here's what I can tell you. Maryland's a big school, and there are some large classes on campus, and there's no denying that. And some of our classes, especially at the 1 and 200 level, get pretty big, a couple hundred people. We don't necessarily want to have our majors in that environment, and so we created a special set of majors courses through the first 4 semesters, which are restricted to just our majors. And we require a couple of them, and we encourage all of them. They're smaller. They tend to be 40 or 50 people. The labs are cooler because we can do things for 40, 50 people that we can't do for 1,000. And they tend to be a better experience for our majors. And we can experiment on you guys. It's kind of fun. Second thing is that as a continuation of the advising that will happen during orientation, we have mandatory advising for all of our majors every semester. You're going to be assigned a faculty advisor who is knowledgeable about the program and will help you navigate your way through it. The fact of the matter is that chem and biochemistry are what are called highly structured majors. And what that means is if you don't take the right thing at the right time, you can be here longer than you want. And so we have advising in place, people who understand the system to help get you through it. And as I said earlier, the vast majority of chem and biochem majors graduate in 4 years with no real difficulty. But there is some planning involved, and we have people in place to get you through that. Third thing is that this is Maryland, is what is referred to as an R1, a Research 1 university. And what that means is that if you're interested in science, and it doesn't matter if you want to go into science as a career, and you come to a place like Maryland, and you don't get involved in research, you are missing the boat. It's one of the reasons to come here. There's all kinds of research going on campus, and we strongly encourage all of our majors to get involved. In addition to that, because of our location, which is profoundly unfair compared to many universities, is we're surrounded by all the federal alphabet agencies, FDA, EPA, NIST, whatever. And every year we have a number of people who wind up getting internships, fellowships, research opportunities in those things as well. My view is that if you come to Maryland, you should get involved in research. You have to be proactive about it and approach people. But the reality is that over time, about 70% of all of our majors have some kind of a research project that they get involved in while they're here. And from my view, the ones that don't just aren't trying very hard. So there's a lot of opportunities in research, both on campus and off campus, and taking advantage of that is really important. The last thing is kind of a philosophical thing. If you've been looking at other chemistry departments, particularly at large universities, for most of them you're going to find a group of people among the faculty who are usually referred to as instructional faculty. And in many places, the role of the instructional faculty is basically to manage the labs. At Maryland, we're different. We have a group of instructional faculty on campus. And to be really clear, I'm one of them. And we teach many of the lecture courses, both at the introductory and upper levels. And the premise is that this was the career that we chose, and that our jobs are teaching and the care and feeding of undergraduates, and that we're going to be good at it. And I think that at Maryland, it's not unique, but it's unusual. This model really has resulted in an elevation of the quality of an undergraduate instruction, and frankly, I think we're fairly proud of that. Now, those four things may not make us unique, but I think that they make us pretty unusual, and I think we have a really good environment for undergraduates. The next thing has to do with double majors. A lot of people aspire to double majors, and there's a couple things I would tell you about it. One, if you've got more than about 20 or so AP credits, and I don't mean 20 or so classes, I mean 20 or so credit hours, which usually corresponds to something like 4 or 5 past AP exams, you're a prime candidate for a double major or minimally a minor. The only real issue with completing a double major is planning. A lot of people start thinking about it, early on, but then they don't do anything with it, and they don't do any planning, and all of a sudden they get to their junior year and say, I think maybe I'd like to double major in Spanish. And then they realize it's impossible to get done in 4 years. If you start planning early, your freshman year, it's usually fairly straightforward. We've had people that have double majored in virtually everything you can think on campus. Now, some majors, there's a bunch of overlap, like biology, chemical engineering, makes it a little bit easier to do. Some other majors have no overlap whatsoever. We've had people that have double majored in political science and business and music. Planning is everything. If you start planning on it early, usually you can fit all the pieces together. Take that for what it's worth. Last thing is study abroad. Here's my view about study abroad. I grew up overseas. And my feeling is that people who've only lived in one place their entire lives and only experienced one culture really have a limited worldview. And anything that will expand that is a good thing. And so if you have the opportunity and the resources to go abroad, do it. I think it's important. I think it's this is one of the few times in your lives when you're able to do something like this. In another 10 or 15 years, you're going to have a spouse and a mortgage and maybe a kid, and you're not going to have the ability to go somewhere and just sort of be there for a couple months. And so if you have the opportunity now, take it. That said, much like double majoring, going abroad requires planning. If you start thinking your freshman year, I want to go to place X the first semester of my junior year, and you start figuring out a long-term plan that will allow you to do that, great. It makes it fairly easy to do. Maybe you'll have to take a summer school class to accommodate for it. You know, deal with it. Do it. I think that the opportunity is too important to turn down. So planning is very, very important. The other thing I would say is that if you're planning on going abroad, do not plan on making a lot of progress in your major classes while you're there. You shouldn't plan on taking more than one major related class wherever you are. And the reason for that is that, let's say for the sake of argument, that you want to go to Australia. What do you want to do in Australia? Well, you want to explore the place and experience it. What you don't want to do is you don't want to spend the entire semester cooped up in a classroom and a dorm room and a laboratory doing nothing but studying and not learning really anything about Australia. You want to get out there and experience the place. That's the point of going abroad. Anecdotally, I can tell you, this is probably 14 years ago, there was a kid who was going to Australia, and he was pre-med, and I don't recall exactly what he was planning on taking, but I think it was biochemistry and cell biology and physics. And he told me that, and I was like, dude, it's a bad idea. You know, don't do this. And I basically gave him the same little spiel I just gave you all. But no, I got to do this. It's important. So he went off to Australia, and of course what happened was he got hooked up with some people, and they went out to the desert, and he spent like a week out in the outback, and then he went up to Thailand for a month, and he had a really, really good time. And he came back and he said it was the most important thing I've ever done. His grades, not so much. Don't do that, right? If you're going to go to a place, go there with the intention of experiencing it and learning about it and actually being abroad, not trying to replicate what you would get here. And if it turns out you need to take an extra class to get through it all, then do that. That is the end of my questions, and the video is probably already too long, but you can always contact me by email. It's down here at the bottom, mpms@umd.edu. I will be happy to answer any questions you might have. And with that, have a good rest of your day, and good luck making your decision about where you ultimately want to go. Thanks.